world gone insane. An upside-down civilization that cannot be real. A world of madness and terror.
It's the Dana Gould Hour.
The sun is up, the flowers are blooming, the trees are green, the birds are chirping, and the entire state of California is in flames. That can mean only one thing. It's springtime. And like every red-blooded American, I'm diligently doing my podcast from an airless room. Season 2, Episode 3, Your Feet's Too Big. Centering on, but not tethered to, a little fella named Sasquatch. Bobcat Goldthwaite is here to talk about his new found-footage Bigfoot-themed horror film, Willow Creek, along with our good friend Rob Cohen. Eddie Pepitone joins us. You can see his film, The Bitter Buddha, and follow him on the Twitter through the convenience of your home computer at Eddie Pepitone. And lastly, but never leastly, NPR's Monika Scott. See what she's up to at Mighty Monika. That's Monika with a K. As for me, May 31st through June 1st, I will be in Vancouver at the Comedy Mix. On June 7th of this year, you can see me pretending to be smart on Real Time with Bill Maher. And then, two cool things happen. This summer, we'll see the release of my new special entitled I Know It's Wrong. Where? I'm not sure yet. But we will tell you as soon as we know, and that will be soon. So follow me on the Twitter at Dana J. Gould, or visit the website, won't you? On June 11th, I will start shooting the new Frank Darabont TV series, Lost Angels, for TNT. Formerly titled L.A. Noire and drawn from the book of the same name and not the video game, whose company is very litigious, and so we changed the title. This show tells the story of the LAPD mob squad in the late 1940s and the battle for the soul of Los Angeles that raged between Police Chief William Parker and mob boss Mickey Cohen. The show features John Bernthal and Jeff DeMunn from The Walking Dead, as well as Milo Ventimiglia, Neil McDonough, myself, and a host of other fine actors. I will assume it airs in the fall on TNT. Further details will be revealed in due time on my respective internet outlets. In the fall, I will be performing in Boston and New York with my good friend Matt Bronger, and those details will also be revealed all in due time. And by that time, I'm assuming my 1940s haircut will have grown out somewhat. I'd like to say a very special thank you and a tip of the hat to those who have donated or subscribed to the show. We deeply appreciate it. It's a simple procedure. If you're a fan of us here at the Dana Gould Hour and would like to help us out with a little scratch, my financial dream for the show is to one day break even. If you haven't yet but would like to, I would invite you to visit the main page at danagould.com for all the pertinent information. We'd appreciate it. You can donate as little or as much as you'd like. All it does basically is defray my out-of-pocket costs and allows me to maybe throw the guests a little honorarium. Because no one likes to work for free, believe it or not. But enough of my yakking. Let's get on with my yakking.
Welcome to Political Talk with two guys from Boston. A working man's look at the socio-political issues of our day. And now, Political Talk with two guys from Boston.
The fucking marathon?
I know.
Jesus Christ.
Fucking hairy.
Did you ever?
No.
Unbelievable.
So hard.
Motherfucker.
It's fucking brutal.
I can't fucking believe it.
No, it's too much.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's... You know what?
Somebody's cock.
Yeah, and balls.
Jesus.
Unfucking believable.
Douchebags.
Both of them.
Fucking douchebags.
All of them.
Jesus Christ.
Fucking heartless.
Assholes.
Yeah.
Fucking assholes.
Total fucking assholes.
Jesus.
What are they thinking?
Oh, well. Sun comes up tomorrow, I guess.
It better.
Yep.
Political Talk with two guys from Boston.
I'm joined today by, some call him a raconteur, some call him an auteur. I prefer raconauteur, Bobcat Goldthwaite.
Hi, this is the sound of my voice.
And I'm also joined by Jewish hand model, Rob Cohen.
These are the sounds of my Jewish hands.
If a Jewish hand claps in the woods.
Because the other one has money in it.
Well,
Is it a bargain?
he's not going to be in the woods. He's a Jew. All right? All right. Am I right?
He's at Zabar's.
Now, Bob, your new movie is called Willow Creek, and it's about...
Willow Creek is the epicenter of Sasquatchery in Northern California.
How is that not a sex move?
It is
Sasquatchery.
Sasquatchery. You have to look back over your shoulder. No,
2 hours of stern Sasquatchery.
And
But
take
the-
a lot of vitamin D.
your joints will get brittle. So the Patterson-Gimlin footage, which was shot 46 years ago now.
Just so people know, that is the famous footage of Bigfoot, if you've seen it,
Yeah.
of him walking away from a shaky camera.
Her actually, it's Patty. It has breasts. If you really
Well, so
check it
does
out.
my uncle.
Well, but that's the thing. You get breasts by too much Viagra, so maybe.
Is that true?
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
look at
great.
like Jack Nicholson. He's got nice cans, or
Lonnie Anderson.
exactly. My point.
There are more Dougs.
Steven Tyler. I mean, if you look at these old dudes, our friend says that's what gave him his heart attack, and he was getting a
Really?
nice set of cans for a while. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. I mean, that's allegedly.
Maybe it's interesting. Maybe Viagra doesn't give you an erection. Maybe Viagra gives you boobs, and then you give yourself an erection looking at your own boobs.
You just go, oh man,
That's a whole day.
I'm so hot.
God, look at me.
Look at my cans. Cans. I have to go to a smoker afterwards and watch some stag
A
films.
gentleman smoker.
So, yeah.
A stag party.
I think I can see my boner past my boobs.
So the Patterson footage was shot there.
That is
years
called
ago.
the Patterson-Gimlin footage.
Yeah, after Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. Roger Patterson passed away. Bob Gimlin is still alive. And
that was shot in 1967?
correct. So I shot a movie that is a horror suspense, but also part doc. So I went up to where the Patterson-Gimlin footage was shot and actually went really close to the location. For me, it's sacred ground, so I didn't want to soil it with my bonehead movies. So it's Bluff Creek is where the actual filming took place. So
In Nevada?
no, you're almost into Oregon when you get there.
Northern California.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I went in there, but first we interview folks that, I didn't really go out of my way to say, hey, these are actors playing characters. They just did interviews, so it all cut into the movie. I think hopefully if the movie works for people, I feel that the performances and the fact that it really seems very realistic kind of separates it from some of the other found footage movies. Found footage movies it's really the porn acting of cinema, I mean, it's really bad acting, and I think the performances are really realistic, and then the folks who are just being themselves come off pretty honest.
Yeah, well, they think they're in a documentary.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's a great, and then it becomes a fiction. That's actually a great idea.
Charlene Yee's Paper Heart was the inspiration because she did a really good job of that, and I kind of did that, but said it in the Bigfoot world. This sounds all very...
That's your answer to everything.
It's all very dry, but really what it was the 9-year-old me wanted to go to where the footage was shot all those years ago. And I was in tight with a lot of the big heavies in the various...
in the worlds of Sasquatchery.
Sure. There's a guy, Tom Yamarone, shows up. He's the Bob Dylan of the Bigfoot community, and he sings a historical song.
Okay, I was wondering where that connection was. I was one the Bob Dylan of the Bigfoot world.
Yeah.
See,
Don
I would
McClane.
get...
That was brought up, actually.
Really?
Don McClane. Yeah, because I was trying to get Dave Grohl to cover the song,
that'd be awesome.
and he goes, wow, this is like the American Pie of Bigfoot songs.
Hilarious. All the monsters are mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
How they've gone away.
It's a little bit like, has anybody here seen my old friend Sasquatch?
See, the Mac Davis of the Bigfoot world is still trying to get in the movie.
Well,
And it's Mac Davis.
She said it was the Randy Newman. For some reason, Randy Newman really frosts my wife's cake. Like
Really?
Wow.
that's her kryptonite. I don't know what it is. It really
see that.
I think he's great.
I do too. It drives her mental. I don't know.
You have to separate his songwriting from his soundtrack work because...
I think that's how she's only
yeah.
familiar with him. I mean,
No.
he's a great satirist.
Yeah, no, I've played his stuff for people that only know him from Toy Story, and they're like, this is him? I was like, yeah, he's got amazing songs.
When I was up there, Ranger Robert, so we drive 17 miles down a dirt
Now, that's
road.
a porn name.
It takes 2.5 hours to get to Louse Camp. I mean, we're in there. Okay, so
Yeah.
the nearest town is 40 minutes to an hour away. There's 1,400 people. There's no police department. This forest is forest. I mean, no planes are going over. Cell reception, that's nothing. So, and we've seen a few mountain lions and stuff like that. But so Ranger Robert basically is my way of getting out of here alive. And this is like a
Yeah, because that is the thing, because you're so far in the woods
yeah.
that you can really get lost.
Sure.
Like,
The
I
guys-
had that feeling at Home Depot. Like, I feel like I might never get out.
And
Right.
you really can't see, further than 15 feet in front of you in some of these areas. But
At the Home Depot one.
At the Home Depot.
Victory.
Yeah. So we had our actress and a female producer, and one of the guys goes, we don't usually have women here. In fact, we've never had any women here. And I was like, that's when the raping starts, fellas.
Yeah.
Didn't get a laugh. And I go,
Time to breed.
And I was like, time to keep
Build our super forest army.
So,
You're going to be my forest wife.
well, and I go, I really thought you guys would have pussy helmets. I really thought there'd be so much tail here that you guys would be getting hit with it. And again, they didn't laugh. But so Ranger Robert.
Not counting badgers? Yes.
Well, here's the thing. Because of the mountain lions and bears, I didn't see any roadkill or small animals. It was really, that was a weird thing. But at one point, Ranger Robert goes, he says to me, about 3 a.m., he goes, I'm a writer too. I go, oh, really? What do you write? He goes, well, I write, Twilight. I write kind of like Twilight, but set in the Bigfoot community. So it's
That old chestnut.
it's teen Bigfoot books.
It's about teen Bigfoots.
No, it's coming of age in the world of Bigfoot. It
Oh,
was
okay.
called Yeti or Not. And it was a young couple. I guess they're deciding, I don't know, maybe to go all the way. I don't know. I have, spoiler alert, don't tell me if you've finished it.
But
yeah.
humans, not Bigfoot's teens.
No.
Human teens.
Yeah, human teens who are hanging out in the Sasquatch
That was probably
world.
inspired by the British series Yeti Steady Go.
Yeti. It was what they would have.
That's the sequel.
Cryptozoologist bands on. There's a bunch of kids from Loch Ness.
Are you Yeti for lovin'? This could go on all day.
But so he was one of the guys that came with us, and here's my take on the movie. It is a horror picture. I'm not taking the piss out of Bigfoot guys. I think that would be kind of too easy. Not that when I said that, sometimes we're too easy to make fun of, and Dan Harmon had it broke down. He goes, and as far as like subgenres and misunderstood, it goes like comic book guys, Al Qaeda, Bigfoot guys. Those are the kind of guys that people will cut slack, Well,
is Dan implying that the guys in Al Qaeda are misunderstood?
Yes, he's saying that.
Well, he's clearly Al
Once
Qaeda.
you get to know them.
Well, my whole thing is like if you watch the movie and if it works for you, if you get scared, then you are actually believing that perhaps there is a Sasquatch out there. So I think the that's my take on it. I wasn't about to do a serious doc, also with my name attached, but
Yeah. That would queer it.
it would definitely queer it.
But can I ask you two questions about
Oh,
it?
sure. Where's the bodies?
No. I love Bigfoot stuff.
Oh, okay,
and I think it's great. And I remember that footage. People are always trying to prove that it was the guy in a suit or
Right.
that it was faked. But did you ever encounter anybody that has strong opinions or that was around when they were capturing that footage?
Well, no, I didn't run anyone into the town, but there's tons of people who spend a lot of time on different theories. There's various people who come forward and say they were in the suit.
Right.
But those same people couldn't pick it out on a map where Bluff Creek was. So it's, it goes really deep in
The concept of it being a man in a suit is an easy thing to say, but supposedly, in my very limited research, for 1967, the musculature under that suit is not indicative to that kind of suit at that time.
Yeah, well, you're a big Planet of the Apes fan, and that was
What?
the... What is this movie you speak of? Only the Tim Burton one. So, what wasn't around in 67 was four-way stretch fur.
Right.
Which would lend itself to the fact that you see muscles ripping, So that's the big argument. The costumes at that point didn't look like that. whatever it is, there's something amazing about that footage that 45 years later, we're still studying it, still talking. This is a brutal film of cryptozoology.
It is. Yeah,
It's incredible, but also everybody, just from one still, everybody knows that footage. They know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and
do you believe, I'm sure this is the question that you get on every interview about this movie, do you believe that it is a creature, or do you think it's just a fabulous hoax?
I don't believe it's a man in a suit. I do believe it's something other than a dude in a suit. And we were talking about this because, one of the many rumors is John Landis was in the suit.
Really?
So Dana knows John. So hopefully you can help smooth things over with he and I. So I get this, hair up my ass. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to find out if it's Landis. So I call up my agents and I go, I got a project I want to pitch John Landis. Can you get me his email? And they go, yeah. Because, by the way, they're so happy the idea that I would be pitching crap.
This could lead to profit.
Yeah, we could make some money. Because Bobcat's movies make hundreds of dollars. So I write him an email and I said, there's a rumor that you're in the Bigfoot suit in the Patterson-Gimlin footage, and I'm writing an article. That's not true, but I just said I'm writing an article. So I get this email back. It says, I am most certainly not in the Bigfoot suit in the Patterson-Gimlin footage. Who are you writing an article for? How did you get my email?
It's
going well. Our new partnership.
That's really specific of him. Like, he's so smart.
Right. He could smell bullshit right away on this. Like,
I was at Monsterpalooza. No, I'm not making this up.
Name dropper.
That show full of hot ladies.
I was talking to my friend Kerry Gamble, who's a comic book artist and a comic book publisher, and he goes, I saw your friend John Landis, and I pulled him aside and I said, John, I want to talk to you about doing schlock as a comic book. And he just turned on me and said, and how would you do that? But I love that he didn't go like, oh, that's an interesting idea.
That could be a compliment. I didn't know people still know about that.
How are you going to do that?
Well, that was like I said, maybe the rumors got started because of you were, in the gorilla suit and schlock.
Which is a great movie if you haven't seen it.
It's his first movie.
It's his first movie and Rick Baker's first movie.
Wow, really?
Wow. Yeah, he was, I think, 17 or 18 when he made the schlock suit.
Wow. So I'm going to digress and tell...
the roar you hear is women listening, changing this.
I'm going to tell a mutual friend of our story and Rick Baker, because our friend Tony V used to be the American Tourister gorilla.
That's true.
Name drop again. Right. And so Tony had this suit made by Rick Baker that cost and this was 10, 15 years ago, but it was like a $20,000 gorilla suit that had its own deal. It had a dude that traveled with it, had cartage.
Like a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, exactly. It was in these Anvil tour cases. And so we're leaving Canada, and Tony weighed about $3 at the time. He's about $3, and so
that's 300 pounds for people not from Boston.
Yeah, who don't know Don Gavin.
Guys named Bill.
So he had a black unitard that he wore under the suit, and he was having a chafing problem, so he's putting a lot of baby powder in his crotch. We're flying out of Canada. They find the unitard, and his crotch sweat has made rocks.
Oh my God!
Of baby powder, and the guy licks his finger and picks up a rock with the end of his finger, and then he takes it. And Tony and I are both going, like, I think I'm kind of witty. I go, his balls. That's the only thing I can say. I just kept saying his balls. So that's a long way, but that is a Rick Baker story.
Hilarious. I am joined today by the sultry femme fatale of over 31 classic film noirs, Eddie Pepitone.
Hi, this is the sound of my voice.
And I am joined by the gravelly-voiced Charles Bukowski of stand-up comedy, Brooklyn-bred and rough-hewn Monika Scott.
This is the sound of my voice.
See, my whole theory on things like Bigfoot, flying saucers, people believe in them for two reasons. One, you want to believe there's more going on than what the eye shows you. Yeah. And it's fun to believe in that stuff.
It is, but you can also pull this trick. We live in an age of science, but if you're an intelligent person, you always can say things like this, or at least I do this. Well, who's to say there is no missing link out there like Bigfoot? Yes, most of the people who have seen Bigfoot look like they've had lobotomies and have no teeth. Yes, that is true. But what if someone, like, say, Michelle Kakai, you know, the physicist who's constantly on television,
Yes.
the TV whore Kakai? What if he saw a Bigfoot? Would you be more inclined to believe him?
Yeah, well, that
What
was
if physicists started seeing Bigfoot?
that was always the theory with alien abductions. It was never a physicist. It was always some guy that was abducted by aliens and then
Isn't
went
the-
back to buying Skoal at the gas station.
Right.
I buy sandwiches at the gas station, but
I do all my grocery shopping at Chevron.
do you know there's wine lists at Mobile now?
Well, you said an interesting thing about the
Thank
missing
you.
link. About the missing link. You know, you go to the zoo, you look at the chimps especially, and there is so much humanity in their eyes,
Totally.
in the cast of their face.
Yeah.
And you will think they are clearly a distant relative. Then they will throw their poop, and you'll think that was the line. There's like two chimps hanging out, and one hurled his poop. The other one's just standing there and was like, "What are you doing?" Like, what? Are you going to throw it or not? I don't know. I think it's good where it is. He would be such a pariah. His wife would bring him to couples therapy. Tell him what you told me. I just don't want to throw my poop. I don't see why it's a big deal. Paul, Gina's a beautiful chimp. Don't do this to her.
Yeah, I mean, he'd get taken on Chimp Maury.
Yeah, I don't want to do it. I like it where it is.
Yeah, but however, you know, I feel like you're being a bit arrogant as far as the human race goes there. Because
And my assumption that you don't throw yours? I never, to begin with, I never said that.
No, I don't throw mine. I don't throw mine because of the small apartment I live in. But I want to tell you this, that I think humans throw verbal shit big time. And it's just cleaner physically, but it certainly can be awfully upsetting.
It's an odorless.
Well,
So in other words, I'm saying, how much more advanced are we? I love making arguments that we are actually less intelligent than animals, and I do this a lot lately.
in prison, they will throw their poop. And I wonder, like, after a guy in lockdown, like, throws his poop at a guard.
They do that. You're right.
Then he turns and looks at his mirror in his cell, and is his first thought, like, okay, first of all, who am I? What is up with me?
Wait a minute, Bob. You just threw shit through a little hole in a prison cell. Whatever happened to running a bakery in Queens? What happened to that?
Why are you in here? Insider trading.
Ivan Boesky is throwing his shit
Yeah, exactly.
through. He may be.
This is for making me take off my toupee. No, Bernie Madoff is still in prison.
Yeah.
He is.
But his son committed suicide.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
That is...
Because of the.
Yeah, I think because he
Taking
like,
on
inherited-
daddy's guilt.
I think so, or he was left with the mess. Or yeah, it's a really horrifying.
What's amazing
Yeah.
to me, though, is that the really evil guys, i.e. Bernie, like his son commits suicide, he's like, I'm not committing suicide.
No.
Right.
He's probably still doing
Yeah.
this. What I did was my best.
He's like, look, I did my best. I'm not going to go kill myself.
I'm not going to go kill myself.
I am not my actions.
I am not
Oh,
my
charming.
Yeah, he's actually a lot more self-aware. Look, I'm more than the sum of my actions.
Exactly. It's just amazing how some people can take on so much. Like, can you imagine? Like this guy Madoff. I mean, he's such a pariah. He's such a pariah. He's screwed over so many people. Yet he's probably writing books and sketching better than he ever has because you sketch in prison.
Yeah,
Charcoals.
he's actually writing a lot of sketches in prison. He's
He
submitting
might-
to Mad TV.
Fox Animation Block. He's, you know what I mean? No, I mean he really.
He's already written 3 episodes of The Cleveland Show under a pen name.
There's a lot of Hollywood connections to the Patterson footage. Patterson was shooting another movie before he got this footage, a fictitious movie where he was recreating a story of Bigfoot. So that's why sometimes people think that he got the suit. But the thing about that movie was Jerry Merritt, who played guitar for Gene Vincent was in that movie. So I'm trying to dig up some people that might know him, and then
it would seem to me that Tom Kenny would know him.
Yeah, that would be a one phone call, and he'd be at his house. Remember?
Exactly.
Right.
I'm actually going to meet him at Hugo's in 20 minutes.
Yeah, no. He would have rockabilly guys on his couch sometimes. You could try spraying for them, and they keep coming back. But
we've got rockabilly guys.
I don't know. You keep leaving the hooch out. So there's John Chambers is the other big connection.
Yeah, John Chambers, who people now know as the makeup artist behind the plan in the movie Argo.
Yeah.
John Goodman in the movie Argo was portraying John Chambers, who was a real man who designed the makeup for Planet of the Apes, most famously.
Yeah, but he did do a Bigfoot suit, but it wasn't even a suit. It was this thing. It was supposed to go to state fairs and stuff. It was made of concrete, and it was who's the guy who plays Jaws? And
Richard Kiel.
Yeah, Richard Kiel modeled it, and again, that doesn't look. I've seen that.
How awesome is it that I knew that right away?
Yeah. I know.
No wonder I'm just foaming with women.
We just have the. I've seen that suit, and it looks nothing like the Patterson suit. So I'm kind of interested in exploring and being able to use my tiny cachet in show business to dispel a lot of these other things. But these guys that go into this world, they go so hard. You can't believe it. The thing I find really funny is there's guys who spend a lot of time researching it, which is interesting if that's the thing that floats your boat. I mean, it's certainly harmless.
Fun.
It's a harmless activity.
Yeah.
But the people who are angry about it, to me, are really funny. I mean, there's like this hostility towards all this stuff. Like, I can understand hostility towards proving if there's a God or not. Because, I mean, a lot of murders are done in the name of God.
Yes.
But not many in the name of Bigfoot.
They're angry that people don't believe Bigfoot exists and that they're wasting their time.
Yeah, they're angry that it's all fake, it's the biggest hoax. But even if all that was true, I don't understand the hostility towards that. Like, if you read it when you go down the rabbit hole and start reading
religion's
comments.
the same way. It's
Well,
the same.
Yeah.
On a more concrete level, speaking of concrete, your brother Mark.
Yes.
What is the thing that will send your brother Mark into a fury unlike anything else?
Trying to contact him when you need something. If you talk about Bill Gates. He will go crazy. And Mark, if you're listening, I'm sorry I said Bill Gates, and you're outside with an axe.
Why is he mad that this idea that he is this self-made billionaire?
He's a Mac. My brother is a Mac guy, pure and simple. He's designed systems. He's brilliant at it. But he feels that Bill Gates has completely monopolized computing and builds a bad product and is sort of snowing people, and Microsoft just keeps sending...
But that's so weird because I guess maybe corporations use Microsoft, but isn't Mac... I only run into Mac at this point in my life.
I'm a PC guy. I'm not defending it.
Okay.
But it's literally, if you mention Bill Gates, he will go crazy. Like,
now, does he have a problem that you're a PC?
No, he just thinks I'm so old school, and he's given up trying to update me.
It's fascinating thing that people that do get angry about like certain things. It's like it reminds me of a funny observation George Meyer used to have, the Simpsons writer, humorist George Meyer used to just say that it was so odd in the movie Revenge of the Nerds how the football players were angry at the nerds. They would go, nerds! When in reality, they had no awareness that they were even alive.
Right.
The nerds
Athletes weren't upset at nerds.
Well,
they were just a nuisance, like a
back
horsefly.
those books.
And I always hate those movies where, and that's the quintessential one, where the prize for the nerds is that they get to turn into John.
Yeah, they get to be an asshole.
They get to hang out with the whores. Maybe that was the tipping point, where the nerd culture kind of lost me. I grew up with Tom Kenny, who is ground zero of all things nerd. But he didn't have any rage. He was always like, oh, you like really obscure, weird stuff? Oh, I like obscure, weird stuff. And it's turned into this other weird thing. The initial idea that I had in regards to writing a Bigfoot movie that never came about, but I just...
Well, your first one was Kramer versus Bigfoot, but you couldn't get Dustin Hoffman.
That was just,
too sad.
That was kind of the idea.
Timely reference.
It was supposed to be like his girl, Bigfoot.
Right.
You know, I wanted to write like that kind of a movie. You know,
as opposed to his girl Friday.
Friday. Yeah, like a screwball, but you know, not
Yeah,
screwball.
yeah.
What is it when they're
Like a
answering each other?
romantic comedy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
set in the Bigfoot community because I thought that it was a really good microcosm for faith. You know, you go to a convention and Bigfoot doesn't have a pointy head. That's Spielberg bullshit. You
Right.
know, the hardcore Squatch guys will tell you that he's got more of a lumpy head, not a pointy head. So
Harry and the Hendersons is really, that just sends them
like,
off into
fake.
Well, everybody knows the Hendersons' marriage was irreparably damaged, so why would they take a vacation together?
Yeah, exactly. I call bullshit from real one.
Exactly.
So, you know, at a convention, there's a guy with a pointy-headed Bigfoot, and this other guy walks over and he goes, "You disgust me." And he goes, "What?" No, the guy behind the stand. He goes, "Bigfoot doesn't have a pointy head." He goes, "Really? Well, I've seen him 3 times, and you're never going to see him because you smoke." Because I guess Bigfoot hates tobacco.
Right.
By the way, I'll tell you what, Bigfoot loves grass because a lot of these guys out in the field, they just smoke weed and they're like, "Oh, I heard a vocalization," you know. Yeah.
Look at that Bigfoot disguised as a raccoon.
Look at that
That's a raccoon.
Bigfoot dressed as a ranger.
Let's rape him.
I liked when a ranger did show up. Oh, I can't. It would be a spoiler alert. There is maybe possible some nudity in my movie, and there's just person out in the woods nude, and the ranger
That you
comes.
didn't expect?
No, they're in the movie, and I'm like, "Hey, just keep
nuding it up."
No, I said, "Stay out there." And then I had one of the kids on the crew play the ukulele. I go, "Play your ukulele." We just acted like we were out jamming out at 12 a.m. out by a river.
Just a couple of lost fokies, officer.
Yeah. You know, as soon as I said, "Well, we're out here, you know, it's Sasquatch season," and his eyes roll the back of his head, and he radios, and then the guy, "All right," you know, they just walked away.
But did you talk to the ranger and say, like, however long he's been out there, has he ever had any sightings? Like, there's always pilots that have seen UFOs.
I was trying to get rid of him because we were
Shooting illegally
without permits,
Right.
and there was a naked woman out in the woods that I didn't want him to ask me about.
Right. But he was cool?
He
Is
just
that
left.
naked woman with you? No, sir.
No. Who are you? You crazy whore. Get away from us.
That's a naked woman bush.
She's been following me since the 80s. I can't shake her.
That's a young naked woman tree. She'll one day grow to be 40 feet.
She's almost ripe if you wait around.
There was one time, it was so Ed Wood at points because at one point, by the way, like I said, we saw 2 mountain lions. There's this big, huge kind of shrub, and I hear something breathing, and it's like, and it's going, and I don't know what it is. And everyone's like, "Hey, we should film elsewhere." And I'm like, "Yeah." I finally gave in because at one point this kid goes, "What's the difference between a bobcat and a mountain lion?" This PA, and I go, "Well, bobcat is stocky, it's got a short tail, and a mountain lion's tall, and it's got a long tail." He goes, "Yeah, I just saw a mountain lion." I go, "Where was he?" He goes, "It's up to the left." I go, "All right, fellas, we're going to the right." And then that's when the actor's going, "I'm not really feeling this location, man."
I'm sure you were always familiar with the poetic justice of you being eaten by a mountain lion.
Or a bobcat, yeah. What's the difference between a bobcat and a mountain lion? A bobcat has no common sense.
Yeah.
And a mountain lion will eat you.
Exactly. A mountain lion doesn't shit in its pants when it sees another mountain lion.
So did you come away, like, I know the movie's done, but do you personally have an opinion on Sasquatch or Bigfoot or Yetis?
My own opinion is that I don't believe that it's a guy in the suit in the Patterson footage. And I'm just fascinated with what have people been seeing for hundreds of years,
Right.
you know. And so I think it's a harmless pursuit. I think it's a fun thing. I will say this, you know, it was weird. There's this big scene in the tent, and again, Bryce, who's a really good actor, is like going, "You know, we could do this in a parking lot." But I intentionally went to the location because I wanted, you know, you hear the river, you hear there's no background noise. You know, you just hear the big emptiness of the woods, and it is scary when
And it's really dark.
yeah, it's so dark.
And there's no ambient light.
Yeah.
It's really creepy.
Yeah, but I was just like, I think it was from being from Central New York, you know, I dropped the laundry and jumped in the river. I was like Gorgo. I had this big stick, and I was like, "Ah!" I think it was the most fun I've had making a movie. I mean, I really.
How long were
it.
you out in the woods?
Wasn't that long? I mean, out in the woods was 2 nights, and then we were in like a cabin where we all shared it. It was pretty. It was pretty funny, you know. And then you know, there's a scene that I added because I realized later in horror pictures, there's always you hear a noise. Camera whips around, you see a cat knocked over a vase. Oh boy, whew! And then you turn, and then a monster eats your face off. But I realized I didn't have the cat knocking over the vase, so we got a shot of a raccoon. And a raccoon in L.A. is $4,000 because you need 2 Wranglers, you need all this stuff. And so my daughter found a place where they rehab injured raccoons. I'm not going to say where, but it's a few hours outside of L.A. I went and put all this earth and leaves and bushes in the floor of a raccoon cage with 2 raccoons that were both getting over severe injuries. They're wild animals, by the way, and I made it look like
they like run over or something.
Yeah. I don't know. One had its tail missing, and the other one.
They're really nasty animals.
Yeah, and they obviously don't.
Are they rodents?
I don't know. They're in the bear family. I found. So the woman wouldn't get in the cage with me. You know,
never a good sign.
They let him out, and this raccoon just runs over and grabs my pants and kind of holds my pant like a bus strap, you know, and it just sits there, and I almost pissed, you know, and then. It's there for a long time, and I'm like throwing.
And then he traded you to the other raccoon for cigarettes.
Yeah, well, I was trying to get. Yeah, he had actually like rolled up sleeves. So I ended up, I'm throwing gizzards, and he just stood next to me. He just wouldn't move. I think he probably was squirting his musk in a weird way, right? And then he just goes. He starts going. I can't do the noise like that, and the woman goes. That's a happy noise. She whispers inside the cage.
Now, Monika, have you ever in your time on this planet seen a UFO?
No, but everyone in my family believes that they have. They're big UFO.
Where are you from?
Enthusiasts. Hollywood. Born here.
Southern California, born and bred.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Never met one of you guys.
Yeah. Like I used to, growing up, we would listen to Art Bell at night.
Yeah.
You see, when you listen to that stuff, you want to believe because it is an exciting, like fun. Everybody's calling. It's like a sports radio talk show, which is a bunch of idiots.
Yeah,
But I can become one of those idiots if I start listening to that.
Well, for those of you who don't know, Art Bell used to have a show here on a nationally syndicated radio show called In the Dark.
Yeah.
And it is now run by a guy named George Noory.
I didn't even know that.
Art Bell left.
On.
Art Bell, he had a terrible personal tragedy where his son was abducted, or like.
What?
Oh. Yeah, no, it was a terrible. Like his son's teacher abducted him. It's a really bizarre story.
This seems to relate to the abduction and the aliens, though. Do you know what I mean? No, don't you think? Like if your son's been abducted, isn't the next logical thing to escalate the abductions?
Sure.
Ironically, it's what ended his show about abduction.
Yeah.
But he would do this brilliant thing where no matter what you claimed, he was just yes to everything. He was the ultimate improviser.
Yeah.
And I literally remember turning on the radio and hearing, line 1, you're on the air, open phones. Yes, I'm a time traveler from the Andromeda Galaxy. I currently live outside of New Orleans. I work in the photo processing industry. Go ahead, sir.
Would that really be kind of close to the truth?
Go ahead. I heard that. I also heard once I had a shower radio. I was working
Lucky man.
I don't want to brag.
How fancy.
And, I had a boombox and I just prayed I wouldn't get electrocuted.
Sure.
But I came home, got in the shower, turned on the radio. It was late at night. I was on staff somewhere, and I heard, sir, I'm not saying you're not the Antichrist. What I'm saying is we had our Antichrist hotline open last week, and I got 23 calls. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
You missed the window.
I missed the A
to
side.
be the Antichrist.
You could have been the Antichrist.
We already did our Antichrist special, all right? We've moved on to time travelers.
But isn't there something wonderful about being just completely open to, oh, yes, hi, I'm a vampire, and I'm over here in Sherman Oaks.
How are you?
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm a vampire, I work for Chase. Oh, well, obviously you are then.
I'm a vampire, I work for Chase, but I spend my time in that store, Oz. I love crazy T-shirts. I'm a prankster. I'm a silly Billy. That's who I am.
Chase pays the bills, but,
Chase pays the bills, but Oz gives me thrills. And I kill transients.
So that's pretty much all about me.
That's pretty much me. But anyway, on to your topic. Is Michael J. Fox still ready for a show? I say yes. Well, yeah, and vampires are... I would love to get the percentage of people that forget they're fake.
It's
They're
high.
Yeah. Vampires and zombies are so ubiquitous now.
Yeah, I don't like them anymore, by the way.
I'm a little over zombies. I'm actually writing a book. I'm writing Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, but without the zombies.
I'm confused by that one, but I really feel like we as a culture have gotten into zombies and vampires, and you could call me crazy, but because we're so kind of numbed out, we're kind of dead inside, and we relate to the undead.
I don't know what the socio-cultural origin of them is, but they do.
And the tweens have a lot to do with it.
Sure. They have a lot to do with all our problems.
Yeah, the tweens. They've gone from Bobby Sherman to vampires.
They have they? Bobby Sherman. Yummy, yummy, yummy. I've got love in my tummy.
Which I bet was said yesterday at the Playboy Mansion because it was Hugh's birthday. Hugh Hefner's birthday was the same day as the gun debate in the Senate. Coincidence? No, they're both things you put in your mouth when you've hit rock bottom.
Oh, boy. Didn't zombies come from isn't it a Haitian thing?
It's a Haitian thing,
really?
but culturally, the birth of what Americans view zombies as came out of Night of the Living Dead.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was just a cheap way to make a movie. You know, the people said it was like a parody of Vietnam and the newscasting of Vietnam, and they were just like, no, we just thought it'd be a sell.
Yeah,
right.
We thought we could sell it.
Cool.
Did anybody see this Room 237 about analyzing Kubrick's Shining?
I have to see that.
Oh, my God. They show clips of The Shining, and they just make all these outrageous, when they're editing it to show you, you're convinced that Kubrick now, it was a movie about the moon landing that Kubrick supposedly staged for NASA.
Right.
It's wild conspiracy stuff. And I'm the type of guy who watches that, and if they lay it out properly, I'm like, yes, okay, I didn't know he did it, but he did it. And then some guy will refute it, and I'll go, oh, it was refuted. And then some guy, I go, whatever the latest
The fake.
what is up with
I
me?
know, I'm the same way, though. I want to, agree with people. So when they're talking me into stuff, I'm like, all right, yeah, sure.
I am such a people pleaser that if I was in Manson's family, I would have killed people. Will you kill for me? Sure. What do you want to hear? What can I tell you that will make you like me? I want you to kill these
If
people.
he was
all right. I said
yes.
It's I'm not thrilled about the idea, but I'm
right.
a team player.
If he showed a modicum of concern for me, I would have been down with him. You mean after I killed their sandwiches? Okay. I'm like that.
Yeah. I didn't want to kill them, but there was a 3-month supply of Nutella in it for me.
Ah, Nutella.
I know.
And it's that's expensive,
That's expensive. Love on a butter knife. Nutella. But the fake moon landing is interesting because it requires so many people to lie.
Yeah.
People that we think of as great American heroes. Neil Armstrong.
No. This is what this movie
lied.
says, the Kubrick movie. They're not disclaiming that they landed on the moon, but the footage that America saw was staged in a sound studio. And that is kind of believable.
Yeah, it seems so crazy.
Yeah, why?
Well, because they couldn't transmit, I guess, the pictures from the moon, so they'll do it in a studio in Hollywood, directed by Kubrick. And I was up for it, but I was passed over.
I just don't see how they could keep. I don't see how they could keep that a secret.
But that's said about every conspiracy. Has anyone blown the lid off the Kennedy thing? Because that to me was
interesting choice of words.
Yeah,
Lee Harvey Oswald did. If by thing you mean head.
I don't believe, and I know we've covered that in another episode, but I don't believe that Lee Harvey Oswald killed John F. Kennedy alone. Do you, Monika?
I don't know. I've had enough people try to convince me one way or another that I'm lost.
I also believe the thimble piece in Monopoly is a Mason.
Oh, well, there it is.
And those are connected. I actually do believe that Oswald acted alone.
Not me.
Oh.
Get out.
Fist fight.
However, someone told me that to waste your energy, and this is to the point of urban legends and everything, to waste your energy dissecting these things means you're just avoiding your life. Like, in other words, you could spend your whole fucking life
the 9/11
talking about the
truthers.
magic bullet.
Right.
Well, if you want to go to 9/11, you can.
Yeah.
But white wines are served with that. I just like the gritty Kennedy, the first Kennedy thing.
Yeah, it's possible. But
you waste your life. You can waste your whole fucking life.
But it's also, and that goes back to the Bigfoot thing. But it's fun.
Yeah.
It
It's
is
fun
fun
to imagine. It's
And-
fun to pretend.
And it's like you're going to waste your life on something.
Now that's a dangerous to plan in my head because then
true.
I'll go, well, Monica's right. It was the first time I met her, but she made cogent points about
Yes.
I'm just picking things to waste my life on.
It's like we're all going to waste our life on something. Like you used the sports analogy earlier. Like some people are into sports, some people are super into urban legends.
By the way,
true.
is there anything that's not a waste of life in that context? Like I feel like everything I do can be interpreted as a waste of life. Like I'll go on Twitter in the morning to write Twitter jokes, and I'm like, what are you doing, Eddie? And then I'll go reading, political stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you doing, Eddie? Like, what is the thing that I want to do? Is it raise children? Is that the thing that's really grounds you? What is the thing I'm missing?
Well, maybe
This becomes a
Solve
podcast
my problems.
about
it ends up with you on a ledge and Monica and I at the bottom of a building holding a blanket between us.
I think that would work.
a small blanket with the Apollo 11 insignia on it.
And John Glenn comes by. Go ahead. Call me a liar. Jump. I think that life should sort of has the Hippocratic oath. First, do no harm. If you're
I
just kind of
agree.
going about your life, eating lettuce, who cares?
Yeah.
Eating
Eat all the lettuce you want.
Be of service to others.
Be a bunny rabbit.
Be of service to others a little bit. Love yourself. Love one other person at least.
And that's about it?
You can do worse.
Yeah.
You can do worse. Never send a turd to someone in a Pringles can.
That should really be rule number 1.
I'm in my shrink session going, I was
How do you
being
know
a-
I did it? If you can, avoid seeing the movie Less Than Zero. It's not worth it. These are simple things that you can use to live your life.
But certainly see Zero Dark 30.
I love that guy from Parks and Rec.
Was he in it?
Yeah, he is in it.
You shouldn't go from Parks and Rec into Zero Dark 30. It's too jarring milieus to go into.
Oh, wow.
Bob, get me a Parks and Rec guy to be a Navy SEAL. That's crazy.
Yeah,
isn't
Chris
it?
Pratt.
Get me Ansari. I want him to kill Bin Laden. I want Ansari to kill Bin Laden.
There was a story of a guy in Aspen, Colorado, and it was like February, and he was going out to the dumpster to throw in a bag of garbage. And he was walking up to the dumpster, and a brown bear just popped its head up over the other side of the dumpster, who was basically there to get the garbage the guy was throwing away. And that's in the city, and that's just one of those things, like you're just not expecting a fucking bear
Right.
to greet you when you're throwing out the garbage. And it's so incongruous that you just freeze. I always love it when the alligator guy was alive, whatever his name was.
Crocodile Hunter.
Crocodile Hunter. Whenever he would pick up the crocodile, they would always have this look of, what the fuck, what?
Yeah.
They're not expecting you to do that.
Right.
They're
Why is
not
your knee on my
expecting
head?
a human to chase them and pick them up.
Well, also, it was always under the guise of education, but the guy was just really harassing.
No, he was
animals.
just harassing animals.
He really
yeah.
was. I mean, I
We're
think
going to
it
see
was,
what happens when we put magic shell ice cream syrup into this snake's eyes. Well, this isn't education.
Yeah, well, it was also. I think it was a hit. I think the animal kingdom
organized.
got together
Yep.
because they took a pretty benign animal to take him down.
Wasn't it a squid or a jellyfish?
Yeah, it's like
Stingray.
A stingray, but I mean, the likelihood of getting killed by that is like when cotton candy attacks.
He was performing an unwanted abortion on a great white when it turned on him.
I remember growing up with like Sasquatch stories and Bigfoot stories, and it does seem weird, assuming
We're dancing around the elephant in the room, which is the fact that he nearly killed the $6 million man.
Yeah,
I didn't want to bring that up because
But
it's a sensitive subject.
And that Bigfoot wrestled a bear.
And was controlled by Stephanie Powers.
That,
Lived in a mountain. I've only watched it 70 times.
It was a UFO. It turned out, right? It was a
they were-
robot.
No, they were aliens.
Yeah.
I'm going to act like I don't know this by heart.
It was Andre the Giant or Richard Keel. Who was it?
It
It was
looks
Ted
like-
Cassidy.
It was Ted Cassidy.
Because
Lurch.
it doesn't look like. It's
Any
definitely-
women still listening?
No.
It was Ted Cassidy and Stephanie Powers and a guy who looked like John
Saxon?
Saxon, exactly.
This is pathetic.
Took an alien ship, and they had a base inside a volcano, and then they captured Sasquatch and controlled him because they knew he was the only one that could take on the $6 million man.
That brings up like having bases like in volcanoes. Doesn't seem to be. That's just
bad planning.
Yeah, well, they just say location, 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 but
free heat.
But it's also just like you could just find another mountain.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be
or a suburban house.
It doesn't need to be Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
Tell that to Blofeld.
Well, one of the things I was eyeballing was a missile silo in the Adirondacks, and don't tell me I'm a misanthrope.
I think that's cool.
It was really cheap. It was like $90,000, my own missile silo.
We do have a big hollow mountain in Wyoming, which the government, not me and my family, for the president, they've got when the shit hits the fan base.
But I really don't like the preppers. I don't like the fact that a fourth of all movies now are about the end of times. I really do believe that kind of logic is just copping out. And, the world's not going to end. If we learn anything, it'll just fall apart. We may lose a few million here and there, but it's just going to drizzle out. It won't be one giant thing that affects it. We're tenacious and disgusting.
Don't you think it's interesting you bring this up, because I always drive by that Army surplus store on Vine and Santa Monica, and they're constantly selling disaster supplies.
Right.
It doesn't say come in and get freeze-dried macaroni. It's like disaster supplies.
And now they have zombie kits.
That is the amazing thing, that
Yeah.
zombies are reaching the tipping point where people are forgetting that they're fake.
Right.
They're just so ubiquitous.
Yeah.
That people are forgetting. They're not real.
Well,
they're like the Will and Grace of monsters now, where it's like more zombies. They live together, but this guy's this. They're zombies.
I think the zombie zeitgeist comes from a couple things, but one of them is I think people really wish they could get a gun and shoot their fellow man. So when they have zombie fantasies, they're just killing zombies in the head. They're not just opening fire
with no repercussion.
I think we're a nation of Charles Whitmans. I think that's what's going on.
When you're talking about Bigfoot sightings, it all starts with the Patterson and Gimlin film, to be sure. But if you're talking about UFO sightings, specifically alien abductions, then you are talking about Betty and Barney Hill. Contrary to who you normally envision when the talk turns to alien abduction, Betty and Barney Hill were not blubbering hayseeds. Barney was a respected, reliable employee of the U.S. Postal Service, and Betty was a social worker. They were diligent, church-going community leaders, active in the NAACP and the U.S. Civil Rights Commission. They were an interracial couple. Barney was black and Betty was white, which for the year in question, 1961, was fairly ballsy indeed. And so, on the night of September 19th, 1961, Mr. and Mrs. Bernard Hill were driving through the woods in upstate New Hampshire on their way home from a vacation in Niagara Falls, New York. They observed a bright light in the sky. As they approached Lincoln, New Hampshire, the bright lights descended, revealing themselves to be a spacecraft, looking, in Barney's words, like a huge pancake. They stopped the car and observed humanoid figures within the craft looking down at them. They then reported hearing a series of buzzes and beeping noises that seemed to bounce off the hood of their car. One can only wonder what those aliens inside that ship were thinking.
Yes, very curious, very interesting.
At this point, the Hills' memories falter. They both reported entering an altered state of consciousness. When they came to, it was later, much later, and they were some 35 miles south. When they finally arrived home around dawn, it was a 4-hour drive that took 7 hours, they noticed a series of concentric circles on the hood of their car that weren't there the day before. They also noticed that their watches were now magnetized and totally useless. Later, Betty saw that the cloth around the hem and the zipper of her dress was torn.
Yes, what beautiful markings.
2 days later, Betty reported the incident to Pease Air Force Base. They were interviewed by a Major Paul Henderson, who filed the incident away in the U.S. Air Force's Project Blue Book, which was their official UFO program. Betty and Barney both claimed very specific memory loss. This would later become known as missing time. They were each instructed to make a drawing of what they could remember, and although they were separated when they made the drawings, both of the images were nearly identical. Several days later, Betty began having very vivid dreams. They depicted what we now think of when we envision an alien abduction. A small group of short, vaguely humanoid creatures, these would later take on the name Greys, leading Betty and Barney up the ramp of the ship that they claimed to have encountered on the highway. There was a mysterious medical exam, a little something-something up the you-know-where, etc., etc. The Hills were later interviewed by a civilian UFO group in Quincy, Massachusetts, where, oddly enough, my dad used to work when he was in the phone company. Coincidence? No. Not even remotely. These are just two unrelated facts. But I thought it worth mentioning. It was at this meeting in November of 1963 that the suggestion was made to the Hills that they undergo hypnosis to uncover their lost memories of the event. Now, it's important to keep in mind that the Hills were not trying to capitalize on the incident. They hadn't even gone public with it yet. They simply wanted to know what happened. And so, they underwent hypnosis.
What beautiful markings.
The Hills had several hypnosis sessions with a Dr. Benjamin Simon, a man whose last name was also a first name. Anyway, under hypnosis, Barney recounted the events of September 19th more clearly. He recalled trying to drive away from the UFO, but then being compelled to pull off the road into the woods. The car stalled and 3 figures approached. He recalled the eyes of the figures, saying that, quote, I felt like the eyes had pushed into my eyes. And then later in another session, oh, those eyes, they had pushed into my brain. Betty's recollections were similar, although matching her dreams from immediately after the event. Let me take a moment here to tell you that there is an excellent book about Betty and Barney Hill's experience entitled Captured, the Betty and Barney Hill UFO Experience, available on Amazon.com. Why not go to DanaGould.com and click on our Amazon banner? You get the book for exactly what you would pay under any other circumstance, but a percentage of the sale is kicked back to us so we can keep the lights going here at the Dana Gould Hour. Now, back to Betty and Barney. Dr. Simon would come to conclude that Betty's recollections were not of an event, but of her dreams after the event, and that Barney's recollections were a fantasy inspired by Betty's dreams. This does not take into account any of the physical evidence whatsoever. He simply labeled the entire deal as a, quote, single psychological aberration. And so it may be. Or maybe not.
What beautiful markings.
Now, here's an urban legend, that was true, going back to the Kennedy stuff. Mm-hmm. The Gulf of Tonkin, which really
refresh me on that one.
Kicked off American involvement in the Vietnam War. There was a naval ship on the Gulf of Tonkin. They said that they were being fired upon, and they were ordered to fire back, which then escalated. And as it turns out, in retrospect, the people that were supposedly seeing torpedoes in the water were seeing fish reflected in the moonlight, and then reflections of their own firing.
Wow. So they don't know the difference between a dolphin and a
Well, it was just
torpedo.
It's in
common
those
mistake.
Situations, it's somebody sees something and then somebody starts shooting and then it's panic, and ironically, the one of the naval commanders in charge in that group of boats, Jim Morrison's dad.
No.
Is that true?
That is true.
Was he shirtless?
He was.
Leather pants.
Yeah.
Leather pants, shirtless. Morrison's in charge of the ship, Bob. He thinks the dolphins are torpedoes.
Again.
Again.
Yeah. He thinks he's a poet, and it's just not poetry. I'm sorry. I don't want to be a drag. I like stuff, but it's not poetry, man. It doesn't fit it.
He wants to go to the desert and do mushrooms, but we're on the ocean. I don't know what the fuck.
Well, so do people think that was a lie? Like, is there a conspiracy theory that goes along
with
that?
Well, it was a theory that, they were being fired upon, and then they realized what it was, and they didn't talk about it. So, and the people that would have said at the time that it was all bullshit were actually right.
Yeah.
There are some things that you actually...
Why didn't they say they weren't powerful enough to say?
Well, I don't think it was declassified. No, I think a lot of people didn't. I think it wasn't declassified until years later.
And they probably were pointed at as like crazy people.
Yeah.
But I always think it's not one incident. Was that the Vietnam War? It's not one incident that creates a war. It's these fucking lunatics who run the world, i.e., all these government guys who are backed by corporate, and it's like, Vietnam, we got to stop it from being communist. And then they use that little Gulf of Tonkin dolphin thing.
Yeah. Sinking of the Maine.
Yeah.
Yeah, during the
Sinking of the Maine.
During the Cuban Missile Crisis, they said that maybe we can fake a ship being sunk and use
do that shit. Yeah.
Use that as a predicate to go into Cuba.
World Trade Center was a great thing for the neocons. They were like, or the Bushes and stuff. They were like, I don't mean great thing, but they were like, well, now we can invade Iraq.
Right.
We've wanted to do that.
That's very true. That is true.
I think it's really true.
Yeah.
And they implemented the whole plan. That seems to be working out good.
So
I'm
that
whole thing went gangbusters, as evidenced by all the cheap oil we have now.
We don't even have that.
No, we have nothing.
I run my car on high fructose corn syrup, which is my car
really?
has diabetes.
That's where you have the insulin tank on the side.
Yes, it's a sidecar of insulin. People wear scarves.
You can also order that at a bar.
Oh, thank you.
A sidecar of insulin. Sounds like a sex move. I did the sidecar of insulin, and then I went back downstairs.
So you seem to believe in conspiracy theories a lot, Eddie, right? Like, or you're like excited by them.
I'm one of these guys, I don't trust the powers that be. So
which is fair.
I think so at this stage. That's not a radical statement. Yeah. So I think, when I hear about these things, I go, I could see that, but then I have the other part of me going, don't waste your fucking life with it.
Right. Yeah. Is there one that you've heard, though, because you're so open, is there one that you've heard that you're not open to? That you're like, no, it's crazy. Get out of here.
I can't think of one. I think the latest one.
Well, he doesn't believe that bitches be shopping.
Well, the one I've heard lately, and I'm on the fence about this, but I don't believe the one my wife is talking about now, which is that I can't love.
That's an urban legend.
Is that an urban legend?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You're known as the Leo Buscaglia of the emotionally stifled.
That's such diametrically opposite poles. I don't know how to wrap my head around that.
I had some coworkers at a job I was working at, and it was a couple. They invited me to their house for dinner. I think they had just moved from Florida, so they didn't really have any friends yet. And they were very clearly like courting me to be their friend. Like they just wanted a pal. But like halfway through the dinner, they go, "So, what do you think about the moon landing?" And I was like, I'm sorry.
Excuse me?
I don't.
Is this recently?
No, it was a few years ago. It was maybe like 5 years ago. And
so what's the come on there? Are they selling Tupperware?
So I was like, I don't really think a ton about it. Mm-hmm. And they go, well, do you think it was real? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I guess so.
I would just say, yeah, I do think it's real.
And they go, well, we saw this documentary and it's really compelling. And I go, I mean, I don't know. And so then they made me watch the documentary with them.
Oh, they did.
And it was...
Was it bad?
Bad. Like, I was like, all convinced me that it's definitely real.
What's their next move after that? Because that's a lot at a dinner.
Yeah. I mean, probably like threesome.
Because I make people...
I think so.
I make people watch my reel. Like in the middle of a dinner party, I'll be like, "Hey,"
and then threesome. But if there's 5 people at the dinner party, it's a threesome and 2 people crying in rejection. I can't believe I wasn't invited to the threesome. What's wrong with me? Well, do you know about this abscess you have in your cheek? What? Nothing.
No, but what happened after the?
So they made me watch it, and I was like, oh, this didn't convince me of anything. I'm so sorry. And they were like, oh, no, I mean, okay. And then they didn't seem thrilled about being my friend after that.
Yeah, no, I had a conversation with somebody once, person I thought I knew pretty well.
Sure.
Somehow we got oddly enough into the Kennedy assassination, and they came out with, well, you know who had him killed? Teddy.
Are you serious?
I was like, what? Goes, oh yeah.
In the 70s, like the Dirty Harry movies, like all the anti-hero movies, that was coming out of people's anger over Vietnam and economic problems.
People's feelings that they were losing control.
Yes, and frustration.
The civilization was fraying.
Justice.
And that was Bonnie and Clyde was really hippies wanting to shoot cops.
Right.
I mean, that's the subtext.
Yeah.
And when I wrote God Bless America, I thought, well, what? I'd watch Bonnie and Clyde and Network, and I was like, who are we mad at now? And I thought, well, ourselves.
Right.
That's why I wrote that movie. Actually, I was trying to think of like who are we mad at now? But I think people misinterpret that movie who've seen it sometimes and think it's just a list of people I wish was dead. Most of those targets I could care less about. I
For those people who don't know, who haven't seen God Bless America, give us a quick synopsis.
It's a guy. I'll set it up. A guy who's suicidal, sitting at home, and my Super Sweet 16 comes on, and that's the show where they reward 16-year-old kids with $250,000 birthday parties, and they're disgusting kids. And so instead of killing himself, he drives 400 miles that night, and he goes and shoots and kills the girl. And her classmate's like, "Did you kill Chloe?" And he doesn't say anything. And she goes, "Awesome." And she convinces him that there's so many more people out in the world that need to get killed. And it's a spree killer. Platonic rom-com. I don't know what it is, but it's my frustration out of the fact that these people are such huge distractions in our life, and I'm interested in why do we have these big distractions? Why are we obsessed with things like Kardashians and stuff instead of our own lives? Or we're also not very interested in solutions. We're interested in picking teams and then attacking the other guy.
But aren't the Kardashians? Because sadly, my nieces who are really smart love the Kardashians. And when I say, what do you love about them? It's just like, they're so silly and the drama and the this.
Right.
But like for our generation, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous was kind of that show. Because it was, look at all the stuff you'll never have with these gaudy, weird people. And it's sort of...
I think they're all direct descendants of freak shows. I think in the old days you had the Kardashians, but it was JoJo the dog-faced boy, and he came to town in a wagon.
Right.
And it just grows to look at this human oddity. They're just different forms of human oddities.
But the thing was, the Kardashians are so important to so many people. It's huge. The fact that it used to be you had to stand in line at least to get on a TV show. It's even less than that now.
But it's nice to see fame devalued.
No, that's a good point. I've never thought of it that way.
But the thing, not to interrupt you, the thing that I admire about the Kardashians in a sick way is they have completely taken advantage of the public to enrich themselves and make an industry out of people thinking either they're lame or they're awesome or whatever it is. But whether they're the worst people in the world, I completely respect their capitalistic sensibilities, but also their knowledge that if they keep cranking out shit candy, there are some people that would love more shit candy.
Right. Well, but you know what I find annoying in our culture now is when people confuse people being driven and people being narcissistic with them being smart.
I didn't say they're smart.
No, I'm not saying you are, but like people will go, "Hey, I wish I was dumb as them," you know, and had millions of dollars. It's like, well, no, they're just driven and they're narcissists. There's a line in World's Greatest Dad where Robin Williams' character says, he goes, "I was a diver at college," and his son goes, "Dad, diving's not a sport; it's falling." Mm-hmm. And I keep hearing people say that now about that show, Splash.
It's amazing.
And I was actually watching some of it. And it's the first time I thought, okay, I'll do this one.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I just turned on a reality show 2 days ago. It's a ABC show where it's like celebrity karaoke, but they'll have you dress up as the people.
Right.
It's just, you sit in your car at a red light and you come up with 10 shows that it's just like, I could sell this today.
Right.
Why don't you?
It's also like, well, why don't you sue that person? Because that lawsuit becomes your life.
Yeah. Oh.
You know what I mean? Like that. Who's that guy, AJ? What was his name?
AJ Benza.
He's gone now. Yeah. he went on Howard Stern and said that I was in a rehab and all this stuff because some kook that he knew saw me at a anonymous meeting, and that person was in a rehab, and he got it confused. And he went on with it for a while about me being in a heroin rehab, which people go, why don't you sue that guy? And it's like, because I don't want to be tied to him. I don't want to. You
don't empower him.
No. Well, it become my life. It become like a full-time job.
Yeah.
I can tell you firsthand, speaking of Ed Wood, Mila Nurmi's lawsuit against Cassandra Peterson was her whole life.
Yeah, it becomes the whole.
And if you lose.
But she chose that to be her whole life because, no disrespect to her, she didn't have anything else going on that was more pressing.
But exactly, but you can...
There was a show that I pitched for years, and I went to Comedy Central a few times. I wanted to do a procedural crime drama set in a puppet world. And it was going to be called The Fuzz, and it would be like if you see like a homeless person, they would be a paper bag puppet.
Right.
Lawyers are marionettes. People in show business. So I had a whole community, a whole world. Pitched it a few years in a row, and then in the trades, it's like, hey, Comedy Central picks up The Fuzz as a webisode, and Jimmy Kimmel was like, hey, congrats, you got that going. I was like, what? And it wasn't me. It was just some other. And even the breakdown was, it's a procedural crime drama.
Oh my God.
Stole your idea?
Well, I don't know if they stole it, but I think they maybe because they didn't create a world, but it was called The Fuzz, and it was it was a procedural crime drama and puppets and
well, we went through that with Super Adventure Team and Team America.
Yes. Right. And so, I didn't want to make
being Rob Cohen and myself.
But I didn't want to make it my life. I had to just go, well, I'll have a lot more ideas. And
speaking of Splash, which I'm slightly obsessed with, is that is the second cheesy celebrity network diving show this year. Fox did one before because they heard ABC was going to do Splash, so they of course wanted
I've never seen Splash. This is just people jumping into water.
Yeah, but it's beautiful because it's an hour.
It's insane.
So an hour to watch 5 dives.
So they have to stretch it out the way Rachel Maddow will stretch out the intro of a story. And that sign, the sign that I'm talking about, the very sign at the end of the street, that red sign with the white letters, the one that causes you to not go, that sign. She's like the announcer on Bullwinkle. Just tell me what it is.
That's exactly it.
Well, but it's beautiful. I watched an episode where Louis, spoiler, was not on the show anymore. Somebody dropped out. He comes back because
Louis Anderson. Speaking of falling,
Louis C.K.
Louis C.K.
I'd pay money to watch Louis Anderson
like 3
jump in the water.
It's over in 2 seconds.
But he doesn't dive. He just jumps
or falls.
Yeah. When he fell, they pushed him off the thing.
Is he shirtless?
No, he's in like red, white, and blue.
Forget
it.
He's always doing it for the troops, which they appreciate.
One for the troops.
Yes.
Yeah.
I spoke to the troops last night. They really appreciate it.
And they're like, I'd like a meal and some hardcore porn. Yeah. That's what I'd like out here. Well, he did it for the troops, and they do.
Oh, good.
People are doing it for kids, or and
rabbits.
For the money.
I'm doing it for the rabbits. It's just
I'm telling you, I'm so close to doing that show.
It's good money. I mean, but you have to watch this Fox.
I'm doing it for all the birthday party princesses.
It's insane.
Because talking about birthday parties, I was talking to a clown, and
show's over.
And he said that he grew up with
off duty or full makeup?
Yeah, he was off duty, plain clothes, and he
full makeup, plain
grew
clothes.
up with Paris Hilton's mother,
right?
And he had a crush on her his whole life. And he shows up to do this clown gig, and he looks over the fence, and it's her. And he's like, oh, my God. And the guy's like, Steve! Like, she recognizes him. And he was turning around to split. And he's got to do a clown show.
Oh, my God.
At this billionaire dollar home for the girl he had a crush on.
Were you talking to him on the set of your new show, Why Didn't You Kill Yourself?
Shoot me in the face.
Please shoot me in the face.
Please shoot me in the face.
But
there are instances where you really do just want to kill yourself.
So that was a sweet clown story.
I heard a great one where there's a music club here in Los Angeles, and Paul McCartney and his then-wife Heather Mills were there with sort of Paul's retinue of L.A. friends, these sort of session musician guys, and they're seeing a show in the small rock club, and all of Paul's friends hate Heather Mills, who's apparently an unpleasant person. And if you recall, she lost a leg in a car accident or something. And her derisive nickname amongst Paul's friends at that time was Peg. So they're in the kitchen of this club after the show, and it's Paul and all of his friends, and they're talking to the guy that was playing in the club, and there's all these other people there. And the waitress who works at the club finds an Yves Saint Laurent handbag in the back booth, and she walks into the kitchen and says, "Excuse me, I found this bag." And one of the guys in the sort of the group goes, "It's probably Peg's." So the waitress goes, "Excuse me, Peg? Peg?" And the theory is everyone there instantly agreed that it didn't happen.
Yeah. Like you can have moments. I had that on stage recently. I told the story when we were performing, but where I never had this response, where some people moaned and got freaked out, but it was so, what I said, I think it was like people didn't hear it. It was because people will always tell you where they're from. I don't know. It's a sense of entitlement, but they yell it out. And this woman's heckling and heckling. I'm in Denver, and she goes, "I'm from Aurora," is what she yells out. And I go, because she's sitting in the back, I go, "I know, because you've learned to sit in the back now." And it was a really weird reaction. It was like some people went, "Oh," and then the rest of them just said, "No, he didn't say that." Right. Like they really.
But that is one of those things where, like, how do you not?
It wasn't
say
like,
something?
"Oh snap, woo!" It wasn't that reaction.
But it's just like your muscles. You hear that, and it's a reflex to sock that.
And she had
down.
already disturbed the show.
Yeah.
I was a huge liar when I was a little kid.
Were you?
Yeah. Like I just revisited these stories this week where I had like a small group of girlfriends that at one point I told them that I could see a ghost, and they all believed me.
Yeah, and you're trying
and
to.
I insisted I could see. I named her, and I came across this like potion recipe that I had written out that I had convinced them.
And you're trying to be cool.
No, I was being like shitty. I was trying to like control all my little friends. I was being such an asshole.
They were 9 and 10 years old, and you were in your
Lord
early
of the
20s.
Flies?
Yes. It was a couple years ago.
Lord of the Flies type stuff?
I mean, at one point, I told one that the ghost didn't like her and that she was going to hurt her. I've had to write apology emails because I thought about what a jerk I was when I was.
Now, how old were you at this point?
Like 8 years old.
And you're writing apology emails to people for stuff you said when you were 8?
I mean, I have.
It's called cleaning the slate, Dana. Maybe you should try it. I do it with the sponsor.
It just was.
I'd never finished.
I mean, it was so monstrous what I was doing. Like, I was telling one little girl that this ghost was gonna like stab her in her sleep. Like, I was like telling her she was going to do really
How old
mean
were you?
things. I was 8 years old. We were all 8.
You were acting out. That's interesting stuff psychologically because you're just acting out like power trips and like what you can do to people. And it's like,
probably why I grew up to be such a monster.
Yeah.
You don't seem like a monster.
It's a need to control. It's all about control.
It's
8-year-old girls, believe me.
Yeah.
I believe me. 8-year-old girls, they're all about control. That's why one could never be president.
But I was going to say,
you never want an 8-year-old girl as a judge.
Do we ever lose that wanting to be in control? Or does it get a little better?
No, but what's interesting is that you look at people that are really into control. That need to be in control is directly connected to fear.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
So the people who tend to have the most authority are people who have the strongest drive to be in control. So it could be said that we are run by the most fearful people we have.
I think that...
Your witness?
No, I think that makes a lot of sense because the world is in a completely dangerous place on the brink of war constantly, and it's because everybody is afraid of everybody. The people in power are afraid. Like, I mean, the latest is North Korea, which I got a beautiful package, 3-day package, because of what's going on now. They have beautiful.
It's so cheap. Yeah.
It's very cheap now. There's green zone.
I don't even pay attention to that because they do that.
Me neither.
They just
You're
do
right.
it. It's like North Korea threatening to fire nuclear weapons at Japan. I put right up there with my 6-year-old saying she's going to hold her breath until I agree to take her to California Pizza Kitchen.
However, and this may be a bad admission on my part, when I see those news stories, and recently Chuck Hagel, who's the new Defense Department guy, there's these somber news conferences where he's like, yes, they do have the capability to deliver a nuclear weapon, and I get excited.
Yeah, I understand.
Do you know what I mean? I'm like,
I don't think they have the ability to deliver a tuna fish sandwich, much less a nuclear weapon, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, but it's lifting you out of the mundane again. I mean, it's similar to, these, does Bigfoot exist?
Yeah.
This creature among us?
It's also a need to, it's like people who make 9/11 about them.
You're right.
How did they
9/11
do that?
really changed me.
Yeah.
Really? Where were you? In bed? That's interesting.
In Los Angeles?
I was on 14th Street, not far from it. The towers came down, but it was a gorgeous day in New York. I was right near, and it didn't touch me. And this may be because I'm dead inside.
That's also shock.
Right. Yeah. Is that
what I was doing?
Yeah, like you had to deal with it that way because
why did it have to come out
here? You couldn't
here?
process it.
Yeah.
when
But
it
what
was-
that
I think
means
you're
is
right. I
it's
think
still
you're
waiting
right.
to come out if you haven't processed it yet.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's
I
gonna-
think it comes out in dribs and drabs. When
I just
I'm
think
in the
one day
tub.
you're going to wake up screaming and it's going to go for about a month and a half. And you know what? That's fine.
And then you'll be done.
That's
You'll
fine.
be done with it after
You just
that.
go into an underground silo with cans of tuna and scream for a month and a half.
Get a mattress-lined room and you just let it go.
I mean, you don't have to have the cans of tuna.
No, you're right.
It's hard to eat and scream at the same time. And I say just scream.
It's like
Scream your way to fitness.
Just go on a screaming fast. Yeah.
Really? No portobello mushrooms? I love portobellos.
Delicious. I'm really fascinated by the people that go up to want to find Bigfoot, the people that camp out in the mountains. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not above doing that with someone. Just go. That'd be fun. Try to find Bigfoot. No.
But what would
I don't think so.
Their plans never extend to finding them.
Right. It's just like, well, let's just be in these woods.
We went to find Bigfoot, and then we found them and were killed.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bits done about Bigfoot, and the one I had was that I caught Bigfoot fucking my wife. Has that ever been done? Like, I just caught him fucking my wife, and I was like, you fucking missing link. Like, I confronted him, and he was apologetic, but then he ran off again. I haven't seen him. Just bits. And I talked to the wife about it, like, it had to be the missing link you're screwing. And she's like, look, it was a flash in the pan. He was so unusual. Like, I do that kind of bit.
See, I don't think it's the missing link if it's real. I think it's just some sort of...
Man beast?
Yeah, some sort of bear hybrid.
But first of all, let's say this. I don't believe in Bigfoot at all because, and here's the science stuff, it would have been seen at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Elvis is dead.
The chupacabra's real, though.
The chupacabras are real.
I still don't get that one.
The chupacabra is the mythical goat sucker that if you're a goat, you want to find.
Yeah, that sounds
Are
fun.
goats found, like, just drained of their blood?
Yes.
Yeah.
They
And
are?
they blame the chupacabra, which is like a small feral animal that has vampiric tendencies, but specifically to goats.
Couldn't
in,
it be some
Southern
Hollywood
America.
production company that needs goat blood for
Right.
a movie?
Or like
you know?
maybe it was something the Mexican cartels were trying for a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put anything by those guys. And by the way, if you all due respect,
Yeah. No, there are real those are the things, like, you don't need to believe in Bigfoot. There are real monsters.
Right. Yeah.
Now
Read
that-
some of the stuff that
Yeah.
these people are up to. That
by the
human
way,
beings
that's
are
a good
capable
point.
of.
By the way, I think that's the crux of it in a way, is that human beings are so capable of atrocities and have done them that I think the creation of these mythical creatures are a way to alleviate the reality of the absolute butchery that goes on in, say, even a Starbucks. You know,
That's
you
true,
try to
though.
get a
Yeah.
barista's attention, which, by the way, they shouldn't be called that, but you try to get their...
I overheard a woman talking to somebody, and she said she was in the coffee industry, and it came out that she was a barista. I'm in the coffee industry.
I always see a
I imagine
barista
an
with-
importer on a plane, you know.
But even barista, I see someone with a white wig defending someone about slavery in an English court. Like, what is this barista?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm in the coffee industry.
I'm in the coffee.
I'm in the leisure industry.
I mean,
what?
sometimes-
I live under a bridge. Oh.
Sometimes we just have to tell ourselves what we need to hear to deal with our shitty jobs.
But if you go to I was in the Starbucks this morning after dropping the kids off, and there's like a woman in there that weighs like a good 300 pounds.
Right.
There's a guy in there covered with tattoos.
Yeah.
There's a transvestite. That used to be the midway of a traveling sideshow, and now it's just people in line to get coffee.
In Los Angeles. I
Right.
wonder if it's like that all.
It's not that way in Kansas City.
Yeah.
It is
but
not.
it is. It's Sunset and Gower. That's your Starbucks, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
was
Sunset and Gower.
and Gower Gulch
Yeah.
across.
Oh,
from
that
Paramount.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, this always pisses me off about the Starbucks is that the choice seats are taken by the same 5 guys, and they haven't moved since Mannix was canceled. Like they just have been there forever.
They get there at 7 in the morning.
They got there
every
7
day.
in the
Yeah.
morning.
That's their
Out all
job.
day.
They got their dominoes out. They got,
Yeah.
I'm like, come on. I want
Their wife thinks they're working.
Yeah.
their grips.
Yeah. No, I know. It's just a grimy corner.
Yeah, that's a weird Starbucks.
Yeah.
I
But
don't like it.
literally, it's like if you look at the banners on a sideshow from the turn of the century, all the
Those are the characters.
mythical, foreign, once-in-a-lifetime attractions are now just people you see at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as-
And that's an area, too, where I think it was one of the first areas where they filmed here. They were the old westerns.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That's why it's
yeah.
called Gower
Old
Gulch.
western. Yeah.
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 How funny.
Howard Hughes had an office in the studio there, and he had tunnels underneath it where he would he didn't want to walk on the street, so he had tunnels built, and he would just go across the street. And
That sounds great.
Is that right?
Yeah. Howard Hughes also had like actresses like all around town just that he would put up in apartments. And
Yeah.
if he would
That
just
I
want to
heard.
bone somebody, he'd just like, oh, I'm in the neighborhood. I'll swing by.
Yeah.
Hi, it's time for sex.
Set up a system like that.
I hear all that stuff, and I think there's a never-ending supply of actresses for these people.
It's true. Some
I'm
people.
serious.
that
Like,
there is.
some
the
people live a
women
life.
acquiesce to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone was telling me this yesterday about how Jack Nicholson, Robert Evans, and of all people, Harry Dean Stanton, just used to screw women
Yes.
on Robert Evans' estate all day long. And I'm sitting there getting jealous.
I mean, who
Uh-huh.
could do
Yeah.
all day long?
No, I know. Yeah.
Something like that. And I'm thinking, who are the women? Like,
I know
it's
a
an
woman.
endless pipeline.
Yeah.
My friend's ex-wife met Jack Nicholson, and it was literally, "Hey, no, good. You want to like motion to his car?" And she's like, "No." Oh, okay.
Would it just
No,
as a
thank
matter
you.
of course?
Yeah, this is back a couple of years ago. But it was just like, "Hey, you want to?"
If someone just motioned to their car at me, I don't know that I would know. I wouldn't know what they were saying.
Well, that's the thing.
What do you mean?
That's the
Where are we
I
thing.
want to
going?
wash your car.
Yeah.
That's
Where
the
are we
thing.
going?
That behavior is so diametrically opposed to my life.
Yeah.
Like, so,
Yeah.
like when I motion to a car to a woman, it's usually like, don't look at the car. It's horrible. Or
Please
whatever
don't be
it is.
please don't be afraid of my car. No, I know. It's amazing.
It's such a different world. It's an alternative reality. You want to talk about urban legends.
Yeah. No, it is amazing if you look at even people like Jimmy Page and Robert Plant or the guys in
Yeah.
Kiss. Like when they're on tour, it's just like a Fellini film. They have no concept of reality anymore.
Right. I don't know if all of them are screwed up, but I wonder if that's why they quote unquote can't have normal lives.
Uh-huh.
Right.
You know what I
They
mean?
got
Like,
so
how
used
do
to
you
this endless
settle
stream.
down? Is
Yeah.
settling down meaning you only take women to your cars 8 times a day? Like
Yeah.
you're really starting to get it together?
Yeah.
I've really cut back. It's only 6 times a day.
Yeah, like there was a story about
Isn't
like
it crazy though? How
Frank Sinatra used to like to eat bacon and eggs off a hooker's chest or some like crazy debauched thing
That
like
sounds
that.
painful for the hooker.
Yeah. It does.
it really is though.
Bacon's
Well,
really
you
hot.
cool the bacon.
Okay.
But it really is.
I didn't
though-
say there was no placemat.
Oh, okay.
It
He's
really
not a
is,
monster.
though, the whole Roman Empire thing done over and over again. It's just
Yeah.
privilege equals excess,
Yes. Yeah.
But excess leads to wisdom, so I feel screwed on both ends.
Yeah.
Because
So
I
it's
didn't
like
get the
can't win.
excess and the wisdom
sometimes excess leads to wisdom. Sometimes it just leads to feeling horrible.
on the,
And
on
being
the
an
toilet with
irritating
pills
person.
and Elvis type of thing.
Or for me, it's just too many sea salt and vinegar chips.
Yes. Well, that's my type of excess, too. And I feel like it's such a
I've watched an
low-grade
entire.
excess.
I've gone through an entire episode of Hardball And at the end of it, Chris Matthews just starts, "Hey, Dana Gould, I can see you through the TV. I know you think that I'm just talking about the news, but I've been watching the whole time. He's an entire bag of potato chips. This guy's no spring chicken. He's too old to be doing this. Gene Brown, what's your thought?" "I agree, Chris. I think Dana's being kind of piggish right now. He shouldn't even be watching TV. He should be up playing with his kids, learning how to..." That's right. People don't do that anymore, specifically Dana, who's still watching the TV, hasn't even noticed what we're talking about because he's so busy eating potato chips. You got to get on the floor and play with your kids. I don't play with my kids. When I give me a TV, a Bonanza. Bonanza, everyone in Bonanza's clean shape. They didn't have that great razors back in the old West. I think a lot of those guys weren't clean shape. Little Joe, where'd he get that corduroy jacket? It's the same jacket in Django. Nobody talks about that. Django wears Little Joe's jacket. I don't know why people don't talk about that. What's that with Jewish women in the wigs? We'll be right back.
It ends with him going, "And I'm glad Hurricane Sandy happened." Oh, no. Fuck. Django. That's what I wanted to talk about, Django.
Look, I understand Godzilla's giant lizard. How does he breathe fire? That's where you lose me. I don't understand it. Does he have fire in his body and he has to breathe it out? No. It comes out only when he wants it. It's baloney. That's how you know it's fake.
By the way, there's a woman, somewhere watching that going, "I fucking love this guy's stream of consciousness." She's smoking a cigarette. This is a cigarette.
I met him at Real Time with Bill Maher, and I did say, "Hi, Dana Gould." Dana Gould, Dana Elcare. Just started naming people.
He's just a free association.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just a free associator.
Yeah, just started naming people named Dana. Dana Day Armand, a porn star, very, very active, a lovely lady.
Porn star, very active.
Very active, made over 7,000 films, very lovely lady. Very active on Twitter, witty.
So do you think if he stops, will he just cease to exist anymore?
Yeah, I think, and I know people like that. They just, every thought is given voice, and they just walk about narrating their life. Well, here I am, waking up, don't have to go to work, gonna go and take a pee, standing over the toilet, I gotta make sure I don't get it on the floor. I've been doing that all my life. I can never get it all on the toilet. My wife's upset. What am I gonna do? Put a towel at the bottom of the toilet? No, and you look like you're an old man.
But I would love to see then the opposite of that, which would be Chris Matthews' quiet time, where he's still kind of narrating it, but it's a little more mellow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Chris, just at the end of his life, I have some applesauce now. It's time for applesauce.
I actually liked Oberman because I could tell he could go at any second, and I enjoyed that.
And I like being on edge.
Yeah.
I like being on edge.
I like people that looked like minutes before the show, they were running barefoot through the jungle. And then just something happened and they were in a soundstage.
Those things at the end of the show where he would get very emotional sometimes about somebody dying, like Red Skelton helped me get into a suit once. You know what I mean? Like,
Red Skelton was my valet. Yeah, but that's the other thing about when you watch that, and you can't live in a state of constant crisis.
Right. You'd die.
Yeah, every day it's a difference. Well, Obama's done it again. Like, I can't.
Oberman?
Or anybody. It's just like every day it's just the
Yes,
crisis
that's
of the
very
day.
true, which is why I was into this stuff, and I've completely pulled back from it.
If you haven't processed it yet.
I don't want to go. They're just peripheral
It's like
people.
watching a dog bark at a cloud.
Yes.
It doesn't mean anything.
I
You
know
can't.
it
You
doesn't.
just turn it out. I can't do it anymore.
Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, you just get so battered by reality.
You get battered, but you know what happens to me that's bummer is that I'll watch these things after a while, and even some stuff on the internet, and I just get depressed. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. It
that.
sucks the life out of me somehow, and I need to get out into a park and
feed squirrels.
And feed squirrels and walk around and like breathe and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Or take a Klonopin.
Sure, either one.
I found that taking my own weight in Klonopin helps.
That's
helps
too
ease
much.
me through the
Brings
day.
me back down.
It's emotional bubble wrap. You can ship me anywhere. I'm totally numb.
Dana seems very even-keeled today.
Yes. Edward, I don't want to alarm you, but it would seem to me that my pants are on fire. If you would please be so kind as to provide me with a damp cloth, I will begin to tamp it.
Dana said he wouldn't mind being used for chum off a boat today. What is that about?
Seems like an unusual offer.
I know it does.
Can't help noticing that you're gnawing off my fingers. Whatever happened to Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea anyway? Is that still on? Have you taken Klonopin?
Yeah.
Me too.
real majority of people that come see me do stand-up have no idea that I direct and make movies. And
but you have a very recognizable name, and you've been around in a good way for a while, so people know
but
you
the
in
people that
different
come out,
ways.
they really come out for nostalgia, and they
Right.
come out for the 80s
Right.
persona. And then I still do my stand-up, and I hope people like it, but I'm not going to compromise. I don't want to go back to the hotel and blow my face up, so I can't go.
Yeah.
You know.
I would see George Carlin at what was really his creative peak in like the early 90s when he
And people are yelling, do the 7 dirty words.
worse hippy dippy weatherman, which is like
Which really weird because
3 careers ago for him.
Also, it's funny. It's like 7 words. It's like you can say all of
Yeah,
them.
you can
now.
say them all.
It doesn't matter anymore. There's-
Fart.
I remember I was on stage once, and I used to close my shows with a parody of a Smith song I wrote called Clown Fucker, about a woman that was a clown groupie. There was a clown fucker, that's what they said. And I would go like, alcoholics only, adult survivors of incest on this side of the room. Ha ha ha. I get up stage, I'm in Minneapolis, and I get up stage, and there's this woman with a hearing aid from like 1953, like this giant
An
white
old
box.
horn.
And yeah, literally with 3 girls, and they're all sobbing. And I'm literally just going, like, getting out of there. And I look at it, and the woman whirls on me, and she goes, how dare you? Every one of my daughters was incested by their father.
Oh, my.
And I'm just, like, horrified. Like, I don't want to. And this girl, tear-streaked face, looks at me, and she goes, thanks for ruining my birthday, you piece of shit. And I want to not be here. I can't not be here.
Was there a chance the deaf woman
misheard
they
you?
were disinfected by their father?
Yeah. Well, I wish I had the press of mind to go, you think the fact that you couldn't hear played a part of this?
But
I
wait till
turned
you
that
were
thing
turned
off
to the
at
left.
night.
Yeah, exactly. Well, turn it up, not off.
Yeah.
I think I just
I
like,
had
walked
relatively
away.
the same story, but it was these women come to the show in South Dakota, and they're really entitled again, and they're South Dakota hot, and they're making the show all about them. They're like blah 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 blah, and the audience hated them, and then finally I go, okay. Because the audience is like, oh, shut up. They hate him. And I just go, you guys want to be the focus. Here it goes. And truly, when I turn that switch, my daughter and my wife talk about it. I don't ever use it at home, but they see it on stage, this switch. And it's just like, and just annihilate these people. And then I come out of it. It's almost like a blackout.
Yeah.
And the crowd's cheering.
I've done the same thing.
Because crowds, cheer that stuff because, like, people love conflict. A bar's never empty because they said, hey, 2 guys are getting along in the parking lot. Let's go watch.
Yeah.
So the crowd's cheering. I go back to my act. And then this woman stands up. It's the same punchline. She stands up and she's crying. She goes, I'm not a whore. It's my birthday.
Oh, my God.
I'm not a whore. It's my birthday.
But did those people find you to tell you that? Or did you
No, I
stumble
literally
on?
was walking out of there, and they just happened to see me. It was like, there he is. It was horrifying. I felt terrible.
But
But it's like, you don't want to, because they're traumatized. But you don't want to go like, people will always say this, and it drives me crazy. Whenever people are offended by a piece in your show, that bit
My
really,
show.
or your show, but they always say like, that bit really offended me. You shouldn't do it. But so that bit offended you.
Right.
What about the other bits that didn't offend you that might offend somebody else? That's
Right.
okay?
Right.
So I really have to key in on you.
Right.
Go
What is
apologize
it
to
that,
everybody else.
what happened to you so I don't offend you? The other stuff that other people might not like, that's cool to do because it doesn't affect you.
Well, it's, have it your way, Burger King. Like everything is supposed to be made to my order.
Yeah.
Also, it's just like, I've noticed that the people that are offended were going to be offended before they left the night.
Yeah.
They came to the show to be offended.
Yeah.
I know somebody that was in a plane crash.
He's going to say something. I'm going to get to speak up.
Yeah.
I'm going to have 6 Long Island iced teas and get offended.
Yeah, and I'm the birth of that when I talk about the special ed team that was on that flight, which is all a true story. This woman, when I first started telling that story, stand up. She goes, "My son is autism or something," and she's drunk and thinks she's going to get a slow clap or something because she stands up and walks through the crowd and she goes to the door and it's locked. So she has to walk all the way back and people are like going. And another guy goes, my son's got autism. He's not even talking about that. And they're like, yeah, what are you talking? You know, and the crowd kind of tore apart.
Right.
And I go, is that woman gone? I go, is she gone? Yeah, and she was with this table of people. And they go, yeah, she's gone. I go, okay. I know I've only done 20 minutes, but hey, ladies and gentlemen, Robin Williams. He wasn't even going to go on, but he was hanging out, and I made him come up, and he did a set. And then after like 35 minutes, I come and get him up, and I go, hey, that lady's your friend, right? When she says, what happened after I left, you say, Robin Williams did a show. All right. I hate hard.
Doesn't Dave Cross...
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Doesn't Dave Cross have that great story about how was it your joke or his? I think it was David's about there's dolphin safe tuna and then there's just canning dolphins. And then some woman, do you know this?
Yeah, I know that joke.
Some woman comes up to him afterwards furious that he would ever support people going out and canning dolphins and eating dolphins. And he had a brief conversation with this woman where he was explaining it was a joke and then realized she had sucked him into this insane conversation. So then he had to justify his fake point and got into a real argument with her.
Right.
Because
here's the thing, too, about doing comedy. You know, especially as a young man, you know, I used to do this persona and I never broke character. And depending upon how I felt, I could find someone who really hated my act and was offended that night. Or I could try to find someone who thought I was brilliant and hang out with them, you know. And then eventually I just said, hey, you can't find any of them. You just have to do it for yourself and see how it goes. You know, I mean, that's the equivalent of ego surfing on the net. You know, when I go down that rabbit hole, I'm not looking for compliments. My ego's too big for that. If I see a compliment, I go, yeah, they got it right. But I'm searching and searching.
Who hates me and why?
The guy who hates me or didn't get me, or the guy who calls me a hack, or you know, and then that I'm obsessed. But you know, what are we doing? This is insanity.
Yeah, and you become a slave to your fans. That's an interesting thing, though, about like I had a thing where I really went off on a heckler in Minneapolis, and the club took the audio and made a cartoon about it. And it's actually danagould.tumblr.com if you go down.
Is it funny?
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Do you like it, or are you like...
No, I'll show it to you after.
Or are you like, I wish they didn't do that?
No, I loved it. I'll show it to you.
Oh, okay.
Just try to settle. You don't have to not talk. Just settle. Because when you die, your life will flash before your eyes, and you'll look back on this moment and go, fuck, I was an idiot. I don't want that for you. I don't want your deathbed to be marred by the laughing skull night. You're about to meet God. It should be a smooth experience, not, God damn it, Jesus. I took the gift of life and just shit in its mouth. My parents fell in love and God's miracles were translated. I was just a thing in my dad's balls. And my mom got on there and just started working my dad's cock, and he shot cum right into my mom, and I grew, shot right out of her cunt, head first, blew her pussy open, and I was life. I was a walking miracle, and I took that miracle and I just wiped my ass with it. I went to the Laughing Skull and didn't even listen. I just blah, blah, blah. Verbal diarrhea, like my mouth was an asshole in Cancun after a bad burrito. What I'm saying is, don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. That's what I'm saying.
No, it was that kind of thing. And what people don't understand is like, no, every comedian who's good is full of rage. And if you give us an excuse to uncork that, it's going to be like bleach.
Well, in their minds, like when they hear about a heckle, they think that you're in like an environment that's like the Tonight Show, or that you're in this really nice theater.
Yeah, that you can't.
And this one guy stopped in the middle of your show when you weren't in the middle of something and just said one thing, and then you went nuts on them. They don't understand, like,
they've been going for 25 minutes.
All the elements that someone's just talking, blah, 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 blah. And they go, well, just talk louder. And it's like, you try to do that when when you're trying to remember things.
Did you ever hear the Carlin go off on the heckler?
No.
If you have time, I'll play you that. It's really like, I couldn't do it because I was fucking your mom, motherfucker. Somebody stick a cock in his mouth. Like, he really just goes off. It's really, because he was like he was from Harlem. He didn't, there was very little elegance.
Also, he had, his routines were not of the moment. They were structured. And
little novellas.
Yeah. So I think people don't understand that, it's like when, I'm certainly not defending, people got confused by what was offensive when Michael Richards. What Michael Richards said that was offensive was the part about hanging someone from a tree, and that's offensive. The words he used around it. That guy who runs the Laugh Factory,
Jamie.
Yeah, what a kook! Like, if there's a bad side of an argument, he'll get on it. Like, he wanted to start banning words after that.
I know.
What a nut job, or like he introduced that boy to Michael Jackson. The kid wanted to meet Adam Sandler. And he goes, I can get you Michael Jackson. Whenever there's a bad side of a story, he's in it. That
was also I believe that club was the birth of the 13-hour comedy set. Which is good. Was it all great?
It's like potluck at the Comedy Store. 40 comics.
No, there's like Dane Cook did 72 hours. Dave Chappelle did 7 years.
Yeah.
What about 70 really good minutes?
Or 35.
Yeah.
But there's also, when someone dies, he always says, make God laugh. And I have a team of people that have promised that they will, make Satan laugh, or just take that down.
Right.
Or if you're going to drag me into promoting your club, you just say, Bobcat says there is no God. He came back last night,
You just rent his billboard for a week. He'll take the cash.
Well, another thing is also that happens, and it's like, it's usually when you have something like the Michael Richards event happen, it's when your comedy club is featuring people that really aren't comedians. Because you can say that word. I say it on my new special.
Right.
You can say it, and in a way that is completely acceptable.
But when you're calling someone that,
it's like white people can never say nigger. No, that's not true. It's just that you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah. And again, I'm not defending Michael Richards, but I also think people just see the tape and they just think he went up and just started yelling that, They don't have the part where the people are yelling, you're nothing without Seinfeld and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, none of that deserved what he said, but those people were intentionally trying to make him snap.
Yeah.
They were trying to push him as far as they could, and then he did. He went further than he...
Yeah.
And then they're like, hey, we're innocent babies that we're just sitting here, and this guy, it's not so... I was going to say not so black and white, but,
And then he had to meet them and get terrible...
Well, yeah, because I was with my wife, and my mother-in-law has some uber liberal friends that were actually sitting around discussing that those words should be outlawed. And I was like... This is insane. Like, how many years after Lenny Bruce? I couldn't believe. I wouldn't even write these characters in a movie because they were so unbelievable,
Not to sound like a grumpy old comedian, but...
But what would he sound like?
It used to be...
It was something
just like this. Just like this. Hi, you're listening to the Dana Gould.
Dana just spun around.
Right.
It used to be like you would really... you made it when you had a record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, or a CD.
Yeah.
And now it's like the MC has a CD that he's selling after the show. The middle act has a CD. And I will never sell merch myself after the show because I still have this kind of old school.
Yeah, I don't sell...
They shouldn't see me after the show. I'm the show. Then I should be gone.
Yeah, it's like, hey, that was great. And here's Pete Townsend selling T-shirts
I've seen Elvis Costello 300 times.
Elvis Costello.
I've seen him 300 times. I've never once seen him make change.
Or also...
he's a guy.
And this is grumpy old comedian talk, but like... I understand, but I'm patient and stuff. But the majority of conversations I have with people when I'm on the road all day long is people talking to me about Police Academy, people asking me if hey, we had Tommy Chong here. They always talk to me about Tommy Chong. But it's the same conversation. And I want to go, I've seen Elvis Costello 13 times. I've talked to him a few times. I never said, Remember when you wrote Allison?
Yeah, I know.
You know, I would love to have a conversation with all of you. Let's not talk about things you saw me in.
I know somebody who met Bob Dylan, and they were working together. He was a guitar tech or something, and every time he would say something, Bob would just say, "What are you doing? Where are you from?" Like, just please don't make me talk about myself.
Yeah,
please.
I get it. I mean, it's like Dana and I have been very lucky to work
exactly
with Adam West.
I was about to say Adam West.
He's the greatest guy on the planet.
I was about to bring up Adam West. That's so
You're
crazy.
the punk rock Adam West.
And so you bring up Adam West, and what does he say? Is it? I mean, I think it's like you meet him and you talk to him enough, then eventually you can talk about Batman, but you don't open with it.
We didn't open with Batman, and he was the great thing about Adam West is that he knows he's Adam West.
Right.
And that you're experiencing Adam West.
And this is your moment. Well, George Carlin was the same way. When people met him, no matter what they said, he was always so gracious. And he knew it was A, part of the job, and B, like, this is their moment. It's not my moment.
Right.
And he was, and I'm sure he had to suffer.
But what happens is what happens to me on the road is it just helps magnify how alone I am.
Oh, I understand completely.
That's all it does is magnify how alone I am.
Yes, believe me.
And I'm polite to 99% of the people.
And like I'm going to go back to an empty hotel room. I would love to have a conversation with anybody that's interesting and not just, hey, Simpsons.
The first time I met Adam West, I was 4 when he was doing a World of Wheels car show, and he came to my hometown.
Where's your hometown?
In Calgary, in Canada.
Okay.
And I couldn't believe that, A, they were coming to Calgary, but also he was there in the Batman costume, and my brothers and I freaked out. We couldn't believe it. And then years later, fortunately, I've worked with him a bunch of times. Dana and I have worked with him a bunch of times. He's so cool, and I've never mentioned seeing him as a kid, but I've actually forgotten that he's Batman because he's so unique and interesting as a person.
He really is.
It's like, and you're Batman.
Yeah. When the voice comes out, I remember him going, I have to go home to Idaho next week. We just got 14 inches of new powder. He's a big skier.
He's the coolest guy ever.
He's a big.
I was a little boy, and Debbie Reynolds was going out with some guy who owned shoe stores, and I was probably like 6, and I started crying because I didn't get Debbie Reynolds on. It is amazing I am straight. It is amazing. I wanted to be Debbie Reynolds. She was the unsinkable Molly Brown.
Sure.
But if I met Lee Majors,
I
would freak out because I couldn't believe I was meeting Lee Majors. But when I'm meeting him, I'm thinking I'm meeting the guy in the red tracksuit from the 70s.
Sure.
And so he is, I'm sure, sick of people talking about the $6 Million Man. But I find it interesting it's like when we go to those autograph shows at the Beverly Garland, it's, you know why they're behind the card table, but I'm almost more curious what they're doing now. And the signing autograph thing is sort of a sideline.
I didn't know you grew up in Calgary. They have a great underground film festival there that's going on right now. I really love it.
It's a cool town.
Yeah, it's great. What's the neighborhood with all the rabbits?
Oh, God.
Do you know what I'm talking about? There's this neighborhood that some domestic rabbits got out.
No.
And Bigfoot comes and eats them. See, I was trying to bring it all the way back around.
Dovetail. No, I don't know that.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I stopped the car. I had to get out and take pictures of rabbits.
Now, do flying saucers
come out of your ass, Bobcat?
How do non-Chinese babies? How are they made?
So back to the Bigfoot convention.
Do flying saucers feature in any Bigfoot lore?
Well,
are there any?
Yeah, there are.
There's a lot of
believe that there's some
or interdimensional beings.
People just believe there's another dimension, and that's who Sasquatch is.
And you get into Art Bell territory.
Yeah, they don't believe that he's a being from another dimension. But at one of the conferences that I was at, before the keynote speaker, like the third guy on the bill comes up and he starts talking about UFOs, and a third of the room went, oh, oh boy, like, oh, who brought this kook? And so that's going to be my next tattoo. It's going to be Patty looking up at a UFO, possibly getting raised off the ground.
Somehow Pope Corky I doesn't command a lot of authority. Now, would somebody just put a dick in that guy's mouth, please? Because that's what he wants. He's a cocksucker in disguise. He's got his mouth open because he wants someone to come in it. Now, do you want to keep making noise, motherfucker, and we can find you that way, or are you just a punk, coward, asshole, bullshit, loud motherfucker, and you're going to shut up now so we don't find out where the fuck you're sitting? Because if you keep it up, we'll grab your ass and throw you on the fucking street where you belong with your mother. And I'm fucking her in the asshole every night anyway. So fuck you and your sister and your wife. If you got a kid, I hope your fucking kid dies in a car fire. How do you like that, you stupid cocksucker? Shut the fuck up and get the fuck out of here. You know, see, you gotta use psychology. You gotta be a bit of a psychologist up here and know how to appeal to a person.
This has been the Dana Gould Hour, brought to you by the Internet. Music by Andy Paley, with Jake Posner behind the board. Produced by Jeff Fox. Graphic design and web production by Spencer Hunt and Segan Friend. Sound editing and post-production by Jalinda Palmer and Joe Napolitano. Hey, if you like the show, why don't you drop us a line at show@danagould.com. Tom Kenny speaking.
I'm not a whore. It's my birthday.
Oh, my God.